Before this episode begins, I'd like to say that I will be heading to DinoCon UK on the 25th and 26th of July in Birmingham. So if you see me wandering around in my podcast t-shirt, come and say hello. I have bookmarks and pin badges to give away as well. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll see you there.
I think he's obviously remembered for the clever girl line, which is fantastic.
Long socks as well.
Yeah. Fantastic calves, like the best calves in the business.
Yeah. Hello and welcome back to Road to Rebirth. I'm Roland Squire. As much of the world of a film is created on the page, cinema is ultimately a visual medium. No matter the film, the look and feel of that world needs to be real, lived in, textured and believable. When we talk about Jurassic Park, its graphic design work has become instantly recognisable. From the 10,000 volt sign on the T-Rex paddock to the bold colours of these Ford Explorers. And of course, the now iconic logo for the film, a logo inspired in part by Chip Kidd's book jacket design for Michael Crichton's original novel. To help me unpack the visual language of Jurassic, I'm joined today by someone with a unique perspective, the lead graphic designer for Jurassic World Rebirth. Please welcome to the podcast, Matthew Clark. Hi Matthew, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to doing this.
To start us off, I was wondering whether you could give listeners a bit of an introduction to your work, and for people who may not be familiar, what is the role of a lead graphic designer on a film?
Crying, mostly. No, lead graphic designer is a graphic designer on a TV show or a movie. Essentially does everything a real graphic designer in the real world would do. So if you are looking at the room you're in now, anything that's kind of a printed page or poster, screen, signage, wallpapers, signs on cars, liveries, that sort of thing, anything graphic designer would do in the real world, we do all of that. And the term lead graphic designer essentially means I run a team of graphic designers on a show. Mm-hmm. So I will do the budgeting and breakdown and the key design elements and kind of farm the work out to other people. And usually on a big film, there's 3 or 4 of us doing graphics.
Lovely. And were you already a Jurassic fan? Got the call to work on Rebirth?
Yes, I was a huge Jurassic fan. About 10 years ago, I wrote a bunch of posts about the design of the first movie for an online art department blog. So it's been part of my life for such a long time. And it's kind of always been one of the cornerstones I come back to when I talk about design of movies. Jurassic's one of my go-to examples of how well it can be done. So yeah, it's a huge fan of the first film and getting to do Rebirth. It's not a spoiler to say we're leaning into the look and feel of that first movie a lot, particularly in terms of colour, like brute force colour, which is great. So that was just the dream, getting to kind of chuck up those kind of sticky reds and yellows and greens again after the trend for desaturated film being the way forward the last kind of 15 years. So yeah, that was fantastic.
Amazing. Today we're going to talk about Jurassic Park and that original aesthetic. What are your thoughts on John Bell and Rick Carter and kind of what they were doing visually with that first film?
Well, I think when people think of Rick Carter, so Rick Carter is the production designer on Jurassic. And obviously he's got a huge career. I mean, he's done some of the new Star Wars movies. So his work, like Spielberg, treads the kind of blockbuster and serious movie. So he's done sort of Lincoln, he's done Back to the Future, he's huge amount of it, and did The Fabelmans as his last movie, so a very serious, kind of realistic, grounded movie. And so when people talk about his design work, they don't talk about Jurassic, because when people think of Jurassic's visual output, they talk about the animatronics and the CGI, which makes sense because they were groundbreaking at the time. But I actually think in terms of blockbusters, Jurassic is really maybe one of the best design ones. And it's not because it's complicated, and it's not because it's particularly deep. It just takes some very clear core themes, illustrates them very clearly, and uses them to support the world that we're seeing. And at the same time, for in sense of the adult side of things, the art of movies, it's a very technically well produced movie. And as a 9-year-old seeing it for the first time when it came out, a lot of those things are designed to bore straight into a child's head and never leave. So I mean, you mentioned the Explorers. The Explorers are great because they are just this kind of really acidic color that almost burns on the film, and kids respond to that. You can, when they try to make the toys of those, like you can taste that neon green. I can still remember how that it's. And those are very bold colors to put in.
I've seen them on trainers. I think they did a special design of trainers of them.
That look is kind of it's quite rare. Like if you look at Lost World by comparison, which is 3 years later, it really starts leaning into that desaturated look that would become the hallmark of the early 2000s. But Jurassic is just really punchy, and it's fantastic. And now it kind of operates almost as a period piece. Like, it looks like how the first Super Soakers used to look. And if you're my age, you remember the toys of the 90s all being kind of so bright you had to wear sunglasses just to pick them up. What I was getting at that really is it's not one people pick up on as kind of being a great example of the craft. I think it's actually underrated in terms of just how well they put together this idea of a living, breathing park.
And it has to sell so much because, we talk about the CGI. That was almost it wasn't untested, but to the extent of Jurassic Park, it wasn't known. So everything else about the film needed to really work and pop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Visually, audibly, everything.
But one thing you realise is that we don't really see much of the park in that movie. It's constrained to a number of quite small sets. But what it's doing there is it's the park, the production design is building up a believable world. So when the dinosaurs finally break free, you're fully invested in this world.
Yeah.
And so obviously the concrete architecture is a big part of that. Like, they are showing you these huge buttressed fences that are dug into the ground, the moats. Because, I mean, obviously you get Malcolm commenting on that, kind of saying, what have they got in there? But the idea is that you're seeing this kind of this structure. And then the other way they kind of really showcase the animals, and I think this is the genius of it, is it's the use of color. The explorers, which were largely John Bell's work, they have this fantastic kind of artificial animal print on them. And what that is this is the artificial kind of plasticized toy-like animal print is telling you this is a safe environment. We have controlled the animals. We can give you all this artificial nature because we have complete dominion over the animals inside. So when the animals when nature finally breaks free, it trashes all of these elements. It trashes all of the heavy concrete, the steel cabling. It destroys this kind of flimsy plastic artificial, dinosaur colored car. You are seeing something deliberately touristy and sort of cheap and safe and sterile as a deliberate contrast to when the chaos starts.
That's fab. And I think because John Bell had done work on Back to the Future, I believe.
He had, he did a lot of the Part 2 2015 work is his. Right. And if you go on his website, he has just got the most amazing watercolor pen sketches. I mean, the work he puts out is stunning. And on his Jurassic page, he kind of goes through many iterations of what things look like. But he has designs he's a graphic designer / art director / concept artist. Like, he's crushingly proficient in a lot of fields. But the night vision goggles, some of the ideas for the fences, obviously the logo he worked on, vehicles. He did some storyboarding. So I think some work on the visitor center, so the facades and that sort of thing. So he really, in a lot of ways, he's responsible for the look that is kind of essentially launched 30 years of movies.
What was something that reading James Mottram's book and looking at how Bell incorporated egg motifs throughout the entrance to the visitor centre. Door creates an egg that you're walking into. The InGen badges that they're kind of employee badges, they all have a big egg motif
in the middle.
Yeah. And it's just that level of detail that, is going to be on screen so fleetingly, but the amount of care and work that goes into creating that all-encompassing story to allow, because if it wasn't there, it would be glaringly obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of, you do, in this line of work, you do try to look for themes that kind of tie things together, because sometimes things are seen for a second, but you just try and build that world up. And again, with the branding and the signage, these are all suggesting that the park is bigger than it's going to be. So in the lunch scene in the start, you have all those slides in the background suggesting future rides, other locations. The vehicles come out, they're numbered, sort of say 4 and 5 and 6. So you are immediately assuming there are more vehicles elsewhere.
Yeah.
You have all the paddock signage, which kind of creates a consistent look around it. So even though we only really see the T-Rex paddock from the outside, the Dilophosaur paddock, which is essentially a piece of fence, you don't really see anything. You are sort of believing that this world is kind of physical and complete. Obviously, the gates are a huge part of that look. But everything is designed to tie together to say this is one functioning, complete system, which is harder than it sounds to achieve sometimes. And the great thing is there's that really nice, there are 2 distinct looks in that movie, which is the tourist-facing side of the park and the operation side of the park, because they're very different looks. And again, with the operation side of things, it's all kind of heavy concrete. It's all hunkered down. dark. And then when you get to the tourist side of things, it's extremely splashy and bright, and kind of even the food they're eating at the buffet is sort of like green jelly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like E numbers through the roof
Yes.
sort of design. So it's presented as this kind of very playful, happy environment, which obviously is a deliberate contrast to the reality of it, which is you're going to get eaten.
And I think that works, that split that you talk about, the kind of operational side and the in-gen logo feels very different to the actual logo for the park. And so you see it and then you think it's like the corporate facade of Jurassic Park. It speaks to what Crichton's talking about.
Yeah, and then the idea is that when those worlds collide and they kind of come off the tour and they're kind of hunkering down, that's the artifice of the park. That's gone now.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting that if you read the novel, Crichton described the park almost borderline steampunk. So the vehicles were Toyota Land Cruisers, which in the vehicle world, Land Cruisers are considered a much more capable off-roader than a Ford Explorer. They're a real exploration vehicle. And he does mention lots of concrete there, but he talks about sort of steam and that sort of thing. And I think the only mention of the visual graphic side of the vehicles is the red stripe on the Jeeps, which helps with the operation Jeeps to stop the animals charging them. So there's a very deliberate thing there, going from a Land Cruiser, which is a genuine capable vehicle, to a Ford Explorer, which is essentially a giant toy.
Yeah.
Like they weren't made to be, they were suburban people carriers. So it's a very specific sort of direction there. It says we're not going to do something like engineered and serious. It's going to be shiny and plastic and cheap. It's going to be sort of Florida on steroids. And it's sort of weird talking about Jurassic in that sense, because obviously it then became a theme park ride in its own right.
Yeah.
And it also had a huge impact on zoos around the world. I was in London Zoo last year, and they've still got signs in the Jurassic Park font, because to so many people now, that is what a zoo now looks like, is that kind of layout.
That safari sort of element.
Yeah. New Land Inline, I think the font is. Again, it's that kind of real nice sort of sparkly artifice. Again, like Tim's night vision goggles, they're kind of they're covered in stripes, they're neon yellow. Like in the real world, night vision goggles are discreet, So it's really sort of emphasizing this kind of playful aesthetic, and it's kind of bizarre because you're sitting in this kind of striped neon colored Jeep wearing these striped neon colored goggles to do what? To watch a dinosaur tear a goat to pieces. Yeah, that's kind of what that part of the tour was. So it's that kind of real contrast between sort of sterility and violence, which is implied there,
and that feeds into the story elements of it as well, because the idea that they are just so naive that they've got everything under control, that they can, you can essentially just drive around in a little family car,
an unmanned car, And I think there's interesting stuff there with the T-Rex paddock. Like, so I'm having this conversation with someone else the other day, and they said, "Well, how would this have worked? Would the car have just gone past the T-Rex paddock and that'd be it?" I think the fact that the toilet booth is there outside the paddock suggests that you were supposed to get out at some point maybe and stand there and maybe be... So I mean, obviously the idea was that they had not planned for every eventuality, but there's a complacency shown. The design of the park shows some complacency in terms of how this sort of worked, and it's really fun to kind of workshop what they're trying to show through the bits of the world that you see but aren't necessarily expanded upon.
And talking about like vehicles are a big part of all Jurassic films. We've got talking about the Ford Explorers, but also the gyrospheres in the world films. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, what do you think makes a really cool Jurassic vehicle?
Well, I mean, I would say whatever's coming in Rebirth, because they're great. They are great to work on. It's colour. It has to be colour. If I think about Jurassic Park, for me, it is colour. Mm-hmm. I don't believe the Explorers were product placements, but I know that the Mercedes and the Lost Worlds were, and I'm sure they were in Jurassic World.
Yeah.
And I think what's really interesting is Jurassic World, the first one, it's really cleverly designed. However, in a way that's not particularly satisfying for someone to watch. So the idea that Jurassic World presents is, what if Jurassic Park, which was this kind of exotic, exclusive, mysterious, shady, sticky adventure safari park, became a sterilized mass kind of appeal, holiday style resort. And so that's where you get these kind of more corporate colors, and you get the kind of, and the touch is like, the Innovation Center sponsored by Samsung. It's
loads of sponsorships.
And Jurassic World, as a 41-year-old man from England, presents as like a vision of hell, because I don't want to go on a ferry surrounded by American teenagers and screaming kids who are like chucking ice cream on things. I don't want to go on the big monorails. I don't want to sit in a huge bleachers over by lagoons and watch what I'm seeing. So it very cleverly sort of shows you, well, actually, that when the mystery goes away, you are left with a hollowed out experience.
Mm-hmm.
Although the color palette of that movie is of the time, of the 2000s, kind of very cooler colors. It does also work very well as a contrast to the kind of experience you had in Jurassic, because Jurassic Park, the first one, you have to, by virtue of being kind of relatively low budget, or the budget being assigned to the visual effects or special effects, you don't see much of that movie. So you're left to kind of really build in your head from what you're shown. And what you're shown is actually a very select, small park. So even though John has that line saying everyone in the world has the right to enjoy these animals, what do you actually see? You're seeing a visitor center that can maybe, the cafeteria that can hold maybe 20 families, 30 families. A park tour that has a single track road. And we know it's single track because there's a tunnel that come out of this one with. So even if you factor in the river ride or however it's going to work, this was going to be a very exclusive environment. And they clearly hadn't got the animals, the pens designed to where people could see them. So you have to assume that the car is going to stop and you're going to have a chance to watch it. Much more like a safari than a zoo, which is the different thing. So it's safari, you can drive around. You may not see anything for a while, but you will see something because you've paid to be there.
Yeah.
So Jurassic Park was a very select, very exclusive experience. Again, you can infer that the helicopter ride at the start wasn't necessarily how they would do things, because otherwise the helicopter would be branded in Jurassic colours. But that's the world that's presented. What you're seeing is through, you don't see the hotel, you don't see any of the other buildings, you just see a small visitor centre, which you can get the geography of quite quickly from the exterior facade, built in Hawaii, and then the shape. So this is the interior set still on the sound stages. That gives you a rough sense of where everything fits together. So you get a sense of the size of this building. And there would have been a hotel and maybe, some other supports with a smaller shop or something, I'm not sure. But it was minimal. Whereas Jurassic World is that kind of logical next step where the people who are going to pay to experience this, pay the huge money to experience it, 10,000 a day, they've done that now. So now you have to sort of spread the experience out to make it cheaper, the kind of scaling cost of production. By doing that, you make it much less special. So all those little touches like the Margaritaville and the Starbucks on Main Street, the idea that, and again, I think it's great because it really bothers me, the idea that you're all clamoring at a piece of glass to try and catch the T-Rex feeding. Yeah. And you could very feasibly go and just not see anything because people will be in the way and people being selfish and there's crowds of people.
Versus what you have in Jurassic Park where, you have that intimate experience, or what they were hoping for.
Tremendous experience. Yeah, I mean, even the thing with the brachiosaur, that would be a life-changing experience. Even if you knew you were going to see dinosaurs in the context you were visiting a year later, that's still a profound experience with that close to a living creature of that scale. Whereas Jurassic World, again, glass barriers, gyrospheres, the animals have got electric shock collars that stop them from going to. It's really sterilized and it's taken back a bit from there. So as someone who loved the first Jurassic Park as a child, like the concept of the park world is not something I want to see, but as a design choice, what they've done there is actually really clever. I think the only thing that would have made that movie better is to spend more time in the ruins of the old park to really bring about that kind of contrast.
Yeah. I think everybody would like that.
Yeah. That's why I'm desperate for Survival to come out. I think I'm
just to explore it.
Absolutely. But I think that's what's brilliant. That film, the first film, tantalized you with so much, and you want to see how it works. Again, that's the design giving you the mystery. So when you're at the T-Rex paddock the first time, you got a 40-foot fence. You just want to know what's behind there. And as a kid who didn't know any better, I was pausing the VHS to see if there were some shots of the Rex in the jungle you couldn't see because you just believe that it could be there because it's a convincing facade. And if you look at the elements of it, it's a concrete moat with some posts and some wires. But it's scale. It's scale that kind of gives you that kind of impending, like what could be behind here. Yeah.
And again, that 10,000 volts sign that we keep seeing then plays into the story, of course, with Grant and the kids. We know just through that seeding, through that T-Rex paddock, not just the T-Rex attack sequence, but also when they get on that wire. Therefore, we know exactly what's going to happen when Ellie's turning on the switches.
Yeah, which is a really great little tense scene. Yeah. And again, that scene's great because you've got that checklist of all the signs, and it's big chevrons, which is a fantastic. It's a very simple piece of design work, but a big glowing red chevron really does sell the business. It's Jurassic is quite broad strokes, but it's delivered in a very exciting kind of punchy way. Yeah. And again, it's kind of color. And another thing that is not my field, but adds a lot and isn't talked so much, sound design in that movie. It's very tactile. It's very sort of kinetic, and as she's sort of punching through those things, you've got kind of like machine click sounds and the switches gone. Like, I mean, if you were to watch that footage raw out of the camera,
Yeah.
it would be like so much is being built into that scene. The structure of that, which is a mix of kind of visual, sound, direction.
And it's the idea that she has to flip open each one. So adding that
Right.
tiny millisecond of time.
Yeah.
So it's not just pushing buttons, somebody go across. It's that stop moment.
Exactly. And one of the things I tend to do in my life at work, I just do a lot of control panels, which is not a complaint. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
And Jurassic, I always come back to that in terms of if you make a good control panel, you want to make it believable in the world. You have to give something good for the actor to do and also show the audience exactly what that panel is supposed to be doing. And Jurassic is a really great example of kind of like, here's a physical prop covered in color and lettering, and it's telling you exactly what's going to happen. The same way with when Dennis takes the embryos out of the thing.
Yeah.
Yes, they have typos on them, which is a pre-internet problem, but it's great. Like, just great big chunky text, and realistically that would have said it would have had small codes and tag labels, but you're telling the audience straight away, this is the thing, this is what he's doing, he's taking it away.
It has to work. Everything has to work on that big scale in the film, doesn't it? Nothing is small. Everything has heft and weight to it, and that again just plays into the dinosaurs, I suppose.
Yeah, because the nice thing is about that scene is that, because as Dennis is conducting a solo heist, there's no exposition given to you about what he's doing. So you really have to, like, all of that set has to sell to you what's going on. So you have those really great chunky door locks.
Yeah.
Kind of, they come open, everything slides open. So as he kind of moves through, one of the things Wayne Knight tended to be cast for back in those days was his physical build. Like, he was a big guy. Yeah. So this isn't really nice about the way he kind of essentially slides through that set unopposed as everything kind of opens up for him. Like, cameras go off, doors unlock and slide open. That unlatches it. Like, there's a smoothness to his progression, which is kind of choreographed through the use of props and sets, which kind of shows how deftly he's able to move through it. Because at that point in the operation, things are going exactly as he planned.
Yeah, I love that, and particularly his part. So I'd never watched, obviously, when I was a child, I'd never watched Seinfeld until I was much older, and never got to love Newman. And so now when I see him,
he's a fantastic physical actor. Like, he really, like, he can certainly move his body. So I think the T-Rex stepping out of the fence is almost to the middle point of the movie. Like, if you pause it, it's the so that is still the kind of the pre-everything. Even the heist is still going according to everyone's plans. Everyone has plans. Everyone has this world they think they're in control of. John thinks he's in control of the world. Dennis thinks he's in control of the world beyond John. Yeah. And the world is shown as, there are cracks appearing, like the vehicles aren't working properly with the programming, but it's still, the people are still in charge. And it's a second the Rex breaks out that things start breaking down. And those scenes of chaos are really well choreographed as well. So one of the things, again, people don't talk about much, is the screen design in Jurassic is fantastic. And if you look at any computer-based movie from the 90s, they are all abysmal because people didn't have computers. And so they needed to be shown exactly, they need to be handheld for what screens are doing. Yeah. The Net is a great example. The first Mission Impossible, where someone sends an email and the mail literally sort of does that and flies. The Jurassic screens are actually really quite real. There's a few bit of like artificial Cody, blah, 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 the corners, but they're very graphic and they choreograph exactly what you're seeing. So they're showing you a working park, they're tracking the vehicles moving. When the fences start to go down, they start cascading in a really fantastically urgent way. And they kind of lean into the kind of big flashing red text a bit.
I wonder whether that's because it's tying into ILM and the fact that Steven Spielberg has seen because George Lucas was very much involved in the progression of computers used in films. So whether he was more used to seeing that sort of thing, or that design team used to seeing that.
I think so. I think there's a clear level of sophistication in terms of what they're showing. And again, this is ostensibly it's a kids movie, like it's a family movie, but it's trying to talk to kids. But as a kid, I understood what I was looking at. I didn't even have a computer. Yeah. And so I think there's really great use of, and there's like close-ups of showing Dennis kind of like coding and saying things going. So it tells you that this room is controlled from this one desk, essentially. He has that control and that power. And the site, the kind of the maps, the 3D topographical maps spinning around, kind of showing the storms coming in. There are all these kind of little key things showing things are starting to close in.
Yeah.
A lot of these days, you can't escape screens on a set. We put screens in a set just to fill space, which we didn't in Rebirth. Rebirth is very minimal screens, which is fantastic. But generally, you can't do a tech-based set without a whole wall of screens. Yeah. We tend to propagate that with just filler or repeated elements or kind of code or movie. But Jurassic is very direct. It's kind of like, here is the information, here is the action.
Yeah.
When it goes wrong, it's bright red. Like it's not particularly deep, but it's really great at conveying what's going on, because the characters are reacting post things happening. They're not saying the system's, well, they say the system's going down a bit, but generally speaking, you're watching them see it happen. So the computer is telling you at the same time it's telling them what's happening. So to be able to convey that language visually is really important.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So the logo for Jurassic Park, as I said, takes the kind of Chip Kid design elements. What are your thoughts on its design and sort of legacy of that logo?
Well, I mean, it's iconic. I mean, it's got to be up there now with the Coke logo in terms of global recognition.
Yeah.
And again, it's quite interesting that they opt to show a skeleton as the representation of this sort of living, breathing system. I think, again, it kind of shows some element of feeling they have control over this, because a skeleton can be studied, an assumption can be made, and you have control over an inanimate object. Obviously, these animals aren't inanimate; they are alive and potentially angry. So it's that kind of contrast. Like it's very graphic, and obviously the use of colors, because that logo exists within the movie and also is the face of the movie externally. It does kind of double duty, but colors involved in that are always really heavy reds, really sticky, sunset, sweaty, artificial, doesn't appear in nature, generally reds. Those colors are great, again, at kind of saying, oh, this is our brand. Like, here's an animal, we've branded the animal. Well, we got it. We're in complete control of it. Yeah. And if you look at the Lost World novel, which has the kind of chameleon dinosaurs, that no one expected that. So that's great. It's kind of like, here's our version of the animal. Oh, we have actually no idea what it's doing. Complete surprise to us. So it's a wonderful bit of kind of contrast. And the logo looks great on everything it's applied to. And again, both in the movie and in the world supporting it, they weren't shy about slapping it on everything.
No.
I think even Kenner used the kind of, it doesn't have the JP logo. Yeah. It's extinct, whatever.
Point, yeah.
Obviously, as I've become an adult, I kind of glance askew a bit more at kind of capitalist things. But as a kid growing up, being bombarded with this kind of aesthetic, and obviously the look of the first Jurassic, the key thing to me is that kind of sunset photo with the blue, because. And that's representation that is the logo with the trees at the bottom. Because you look at that sunset photo and you can imagine there are animals in those trees. Anything could be happening in those trees, in that kind of hazy, sticky, sunny red. You could be walking through a dark forest. It could be a T-Rex. Just like it evokes such intense, or at least in me, such intense kind of mystery and nostalgia and kind of intrigue. Like, I just want to go in there, I want to see what's in there. Yeah. So having that kind of all over the kind of the vehicles, polo shirts, the merchandise in the movie, you don't need to show it, because Malcolm says it with the plastic lunchbox line, which is a great piece of writing. But they do show you they are doing that. Like they have kind of leaned fully into it. You can buy any form of anything you would like from the gift shop with the Jurassic logo on it. So they're fully commercialized. And
it's all real stuff. It's strange because it's all real stuff as well. A lot of that stuff was actually for sale after the film came out. You've got the making of book, and it says the making of Jurassic Park.
I think that's a very nice little Easter egg, that is, Yeah, and it's fully commercialized. And it's sort of interesting because there's that meme going around saying my toxic trait is I would go to Jurassic Park. I would go to Jurassic Park because if you were, I was born in a not very nice town in England, with not much money to our name, and I'm seeing a movie where kids get to fly in helicopters. Yeah, they get to ride around in jeeps without any adults. They have unlimited buffets, night vision goggles. And yes, there are dinosaurs and there is death and mutilation, but like they are experiencing a world sort of beyond my comprehension. So it presents this kind of really wonderful place to be, and you can imagine walking around. And I'm sure I'm not even close to being alone doing this. I play Jurassic World Evo quite a lot, and I just make the original park and I just walk around it at sunset because it's such an evocative environment. So it's shown us somewhere that you would really love to be. Yeah, and they could have done something like showing the hotel rooms or something like that, which I described in the novel, but they've and it is cut down to the barest possible bones of what they show. So much so that there are huge numbers of continuity issues in the middle of the film when they cut between soundstage and location. But Spielberg's genius is he knows what to show you and how to show you it, that you don't even look at that. In fact, I don't know, have you seen the really bad cut in the T-Rex chase?
I'm trying to think of the...
Do you have a copy of the film on your computer?
Yeah, I probably do.
I carry the UHD with me everywhere because it's my ultimate. So there is, when the Rex is chasing Ellie and Muldoon in the Jeep. Yeah. Immediately, the amount of times I've watched this film is playing in my head now. I don't want to tell you this, I don't want to ruin it. But the thing is, I always forget it's there. Every time I forget it's there, I'm like, Spielberg, you got me again, because you're so good at what you do. So the exact bit where Muldoon says, "Get down," that is just a cut. The camera is in the bonnet of the Jeep, and then it jumps 4 inches to the left, and everyone just changes frame. There's nothing. It's just it's one of the least professional cuts I've ever seen in history, but you don't see it because Robert screams down, and you don't see it. Again, this is absolutely not me saying this is a bad film because of it. I think it's just that he can do this, and no one notices. So in fact, I didn't notice this for about 20 years, whatever. It's really something.
I love that scene. I love his line, "Get off the stick, bloody move."
Yeah, I say so. That's exactly it. So the scene, "Get off the stick, bloody move."
Yeah, okay. I'm watching it now.
And the next thing it cuts to is a direct cut to just Malcolm having. That doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't do
No.
that, but you've never noticed that because the scene is so intense that you just don't pick up on that. And he could have inserted like a 2-second shot of the Jeep going past to break that cut up, because that's obviously Malcolm just disappears into the back of the Jeep in that 1 split-second shot. It's a bad cut, is what it is. But Spielberg has looked at that and weighed up what he wants to show you, what you're feeling, where he thinks you're looking, and no one picks up on that. I didn't even pick up on it.
No.
As a director of photography showed it to me, and that's why that film is so magical, because it just reaches in and swivels your eyeballs where it wants you to look at all times.
Movie magic in all sorts
That is
of
pure,
ways.
it's such like an old school kind of you got me again, and I really love that. All the kind of little continuities, and again in those scenes, 1 second the Jeep is on a electrified park rail, then it's on a mud track, and obviously if the Jeep had gone in the direct, so the Explorer's there, the Jeep on that way, the Jeep would have gone into the tunnel. That was clearly showed, and the Rex would have been. Doesn't matter. No one questions that because it's such an intense moment.
Plus, I think he comes from that filmmaking world of once it's out there and in the cinemas, it's the idea of pouring over something.
Absolutely,
that has no interest to Spielberg at all. I don't think.
I have a lot of respect for that. And it's wonderful. That's them saying, just experience this in its most raw way. And I love that. I fact that it continues to fool me because I get so engrossed in it, even though I've probably watched this film probably about 200 times now. Yeah, fantastic.
I love the bit where Nedry bag disappears when he's laughing, and you're just like, I can't believe, until somebody told me about that. But it's because I wasn't thinking about that at all.
Well, again,
at that moment,
Wayne Knight, very watchable, fantastic thing, and obviously, the cuts, the takes are chosen for the performance and not for the
exactly.
This will sound like someone trying to cover his own mistakes, but I do sort of feel like you should really focus on the emotive side of things rather than the technical side. And unfortunately, one of the downsides to the internet being kind of full of goofs and trivia pages is that this stuff is picked up a lot more. But all these old films are as rough around the edges as you like, because they weren't meant to be scrutinized, but they work in such a kind of really great kind of visceral way. They never sacrifice a good take for as a booming shot, and that sort of stuff to just go, that's how that is now, which is we need back, I think. I like that. I like that. I hope you don't now see that cut every time you watch the movie. I haven't ruined it for you.
No, definitely not. I'll still forget, and I'll be just engrossed in that scene. And Bob Peck's performance.
Bob, I mean, the much missed Bob Peck, who, if people want to see more Bob Peck, Edge of Darkness,
is fantastic.
Fantastic. And again, this is a design thing. In that, he gets 6-7 minutes screen time in that movie. Mm-hmm. He brings so much to that. And my favorite Bob Peck bit in the movie is that little smirk to himself when he gets away from the wrecks of the Jeep, because that's a man who lives on the edge for a living and for fun. And he's just like, he's got a job to keep people safe and doesn't want to get eaten. But when he wins that one, he's like, I won that. I did that.
It adds to his backstory of who he is without even needing any lines or anything about what he did previous. There's a drop line by Hammond about he's from a park somewhere. One of his parks in Kenya or something, I think.
That's a guy who has lived on the edge and lives for that moment, that kind of life or death little thing. And such a great little kind of character twitch by him. And he's not really. I think he's obviously remembered for the clever girl line, which is fantastic.
Long socks as well.
Fantastic calves, the best calves in business. But just a really nice little layer of detail. Again, sometimes in modern movies, actors don't get to bring that little bit of character to them. One of the many reasons I love this movie so much.
Mm.
I'm just going through John Bell's work now.
Yeah.
A lot of the early versions of the visitor center and the gates were much more grand, much bigger, very, very sculptural, very tall, kind of almost sort of verging into the kind of King Kong-y aspect. And so the fact that these are stripped down somewhat for the build, for the actual set, again, I think works really well because they aren't overshadowing the animals. And one of the things that I was kind of told in Rebirth is that Spielberg's edict is that nothing can be bigger than the dinosaurs. So they keep that kind of structure down because you want the biggest thing in the world be the T-Rex and the Brachiosaur. Like you really want to fill that scale. So there is a kind of pared back look to that geography. It's kind of, and you can assume that kind of the thatched roofs and stuff are fake and there's really a structural roof underneath it. It is supposed to feel quite small and intimate because you want the scale of the animals and the scale of the jungle as well to be the big selling point, really.
Yeah. And also talking about scale and that chase sequence, the fact that they're all in that tiny Jeep, like they're all squished in, so everything is reduced down in size for everybody. Both the cars are full of people, everything like that. And
there's some great camera work there in terms of kind of really extreme up and downs, and to work in those enclosed spaces with a camera and kind of be engaging is not an easy thing to do. And so when they're in the control room being chased by raptors, again, there's a very tight kind of hemmed-in feeling. So you go from these kind of man-made spaces, which are kind of small and enclosed, and you feel like you should be safe when you have roofs and doors and glass around you at all times. Like they're pretty much always in a box or a structure. They fly in an helicopter. They're in the little spin round park tour in the labs. They are in the explorers. They're in the emergency bunker. They're always hunkered in. But that counts for nothing because life will break through those barriers. So it's just a really lovely kind of like there are much as there's kind of the corporate side and tourist side, there's the kind of hunkered in safe side, and there's the exploded huge outside.
I think that's the contrast between also Jurassic Park and then Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, is losing that kind of penned in quality to those two stories. I mean, Fallen Kingdom probably not because of the house that we get. You know, you move from an island to a house essentially. But Dominion especially feels quite big.
What's interesting about Fallen Kingdom is it really feels like, I'm not saying this to impugn it, it's designed like a video game, like, because the house is so contained and you have such an obvious sense of where everything is relative to everything else. And especially without the secret lab underneath, like that's such a video gamey thing to do. So, and obviously the Indoraptor is a lot smaller, but it really shrinks everything right down. Whether or not the movie was successful in kind of delivering that kind of Resident Evil-esque survival horror aspect. When I think of Jurassic, what I think of is this kind of huge, dense jungle. Anything could be there. And, you know, when I was on set for Rebirth and we were kind of just chucking in millions of palms everywhere, I was just like, this is where I want to be. Like, this is I could be in any second, and that's great. Like, I'm really happy that there's, and it's such a simple thing. Like, and again, I don't know if it's just me that grew up with it, but you stick a big, dense thing of palm trees there and say danger, like I'm instantly like, I
mean, that's what I did. That's what that film, I think that's why I was so engrossed in that film and why I've loved it so much, is the fact that it could be on an island somewhere and I could go and visit this lost land, and makes you think about when you're out and about across there, you see a wooded area. You know, I may keep it in my head now, but I grew up in Devon. So I grew up in the wilds of Dartmoor and all that sort of stuff.
Couldn't tell your accent. Where I was, there was a NATO base nearby, and it had 12-foot fences with barbed wire on and loads of trees. And the perimeter fence for that was like a mile long, whatever. We would drive past that in my head like there are dinosaurs in there. Unequivocally, definitely dinosaurs in there, because it's not showing you, like, it's just teasing you, like, imagine what's behind you, imagine what you're going to see. You're hearing noises. And again, the sound design of Jurassic, one of the great things, the sound of the jungle, the insect noises, the bird noises, the rustling, the kind of sense of heat delivered through the lighting, the atmosphere, the haze. It's really primal. And it's different to the book. The book really operates on this kind of almost like a Land Before Time sort of vibe. It's kind of steamy and sort of stuff. But Jurassic is kind of, it's alive. Like it's yes, you've got the clean, shiny, sterile human side, but behind that, like, it is buzzing and it's dirty and it's muddy and it's full of insect life and anything could be rustling there. And for given how little dinosaurs you see in that movie, you believe all the time
Yeah.
something could be anywhere there,
Yeah.
which is kind of what was a shame about The Lost World in a way, is that they bring the animals to them.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So even though it's this big adventure movie, really the set pieces are designed in such a way to speed things up. The animals come to us, here they are. In almost all instances, they
don't go around a corner and stumble across something.
Yeah, they bring the Rex to them, Rexes to them by taking the infant. They're obviously all collected at the harvester's camp as well.
Yeah.
So despite the name, there's actually not much sense of exploration within that Lost World. And I wonder if that's because they chose to cut something short to put the San Diego sequence in at the end. I'm not sure. Whereas even though the second novel clearly hasn't got the magic of the first, it really does have that sense of exploration.
Yeah, and that's why I quite like that. There's, Jurassic Park 3 has that as well. Like them traveling across the island. Yeah,
for all of its unfortunate faults. As I was saying is it Daniel who runs Stuck on Sauna?
Yeah.
Saying although that movie is sadly tainted with that slight Y2K cheapness that was coming in, there are elements of that movie which are actually Jurassic. Like when they first run it, but I think it's Alan's hiding from the raptors.
Yeah.
And it's just milling about doing its thing.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And in a way, I think that's what a lot of us want from Jurassic. It's kind of, this is a world that functions on its own. And we just wanted the chance to kind of dip in and see what it is, which again is why Jurassic World is quite good in that it shows you what you don't particularly want to see. Even though you are allegedly getting to roam the plains with these dinosaurs, they're being beat out of the way as you go past. Like you're robbed of the kind of the natural element of that. And I know that kind of for my sins, I do spend a bit of time on the Jurassic Park Reddit, and some people have really taken the line in Jurassic Park 3 about they're just theme park monsters and run with it. And then some people like me just still have the belief in the romance that yes, they're artificial, but they're alive, they're real. And I think that's more what Crichton was getting at, and more what the first that you made them, but they're going to make their own way of life.
Yeah.
So I really want to see them.
Plus the dinosaurs, it's the first, I think I said when I spoke to Connor, it's the first time that dinosaurs were put on screen really and trying to get the science right, aside from maybe the Dilophosaurus, but everything else.
Who is my favourite? I know it's wrong, and he's my favourite. She's my favourite.
Yeah.
I was working at Pinewood on Red Dwarf when they were doing Dominion, and my friend was on Dominion, and she let me into the creature shop, and they let me pull the lever, which made the frill come up. And honestly, that was, up until working Rebirth, that was probably one of the best days of my life. That was fantastic. Again, where the look of the movie meets the commercial aspect in the real world. Because that summer of just like, oh, it's coming. And they were bringing out bits and pieces of material. The two things transformed me back to being a 7, 8, 9-year-old, whatever it was. The McDonald's Dilophosaur cup, because they're those cups that had those really great tableaus on them around the side. And each one kind of represented a take on the scene. And the Dilophosaur one, because the Dilophosaur colouring is so fantastic. The kind of stripes, streaks, kind of chemical bubbling, flowing. Don't want to touch that. It's definitely going to give you problems. Kind of look, the threat implied in that, and the kind of the nighttime element of it, the torrential storm, the really harsh downlighting from the Jeep's hot lamps. There's a real and even in the sort of sanitized kid versions of that, it's a real implied danger there. There's a kind of it's like, you're out of a comfort zone here. Like, you've got the lights on your Jeep, but they're not going to do anything. All your machinery is now useless. So when the Dilophosaur popped up in the Rebirth trailer, I was very happy. And the other thing is they had those little badges that came out that kind of that just had the dinosaur heads on them. The spitter one, just with that crack of lightning in the background. And again, the natural weather system is such an important part of that Jurassic aesthetic. The rain pouring over the plexiglass domes on the explorers, hitting the leaves, pooling water. Like, storms are, although technically not really a production design element, they're a visual element that really have so much power in that movie, because the storm was almost part of why the animals were able to sort of roam free. There's so many kind of, and again, the rainstorm this is a real natural, and the lightning, this is a very real natural, what would you call it, happening? I don't know. Interacting with these kind of plastic and concrete and painted that can't withstand what they're bringing. So again, it's that kind of really the natural impacting the artificial is, okay, it's a very basic motif, but it's communicated as often as possible.
It's like an act of God, isn't it? Like Malcolm always talks about in the books, Crichton's always got him going up against God and what's God's relationship in all of this, and then you have God's reckoning with the storm. And again, that also opens up the world as well, because we all know what a thunderstorm's like, or a torrential rain. And so, again, that makes us think, well, they can't be on a set because they can't be doing stuff like this on a set.
Yeah, I mean, having done a few rainy sets in my time, that's not much fun to work in. But I look at behind the scenes pictures there, I would love to have been there. So in terms of Spielberg things that scare the hell out of you. I saw Close Encounters quite young, and that sense of the brooding storm before the aliens abduct the kid from the small house.
Yeah.
Just that vista shot of the storm clouds, and you can feel the static in the air, and there's like the faint rumbles, and there's that kind of self-control to use the kind of, you get the distant flash of lightning, not the big cinematic cracks, just like there's such a heavily weighted scene, like something's brewing, something's coming. Did the same in Jaws when they're singing along, you've got those kind of sticky skies, and you can kind of feel like an oppressive heat kicking in.
Nature,
Something very large is coming. And Jurassic and the T-Rex breakout is kind of like he managed over the years refined how that works.
Yeah.
And
almost not to make it about, you forget that it's a constructed story, that the tension is coming from nature rather than anything that he's manipulating. It's the storm, it's everything else that's culminating in this moment, this climactic moment.
Yeah, like it's a brilliant decision not to use any score during that. And the entire T-Rex attack scene, I often have Jurassic playing in the background when I'm working, and so I don't watch it, but I listen to it. And the T-Rex attack scene is a cacophony of grunts and squelches and metal crunching and hitting concrete and grinding. Like it's just such a powerful, chaotic, and but it's slow. And that's the thing. Like it's drawn out, and this is an animal that's not threatened. It's kind of like, well, this is my park now, and it's just knocking shit over because it can, and it's fun to do that. So there's no sort of jump scares, or there's no kind of like tumbling. It's just a really drawn out traumatic experience for the people going through it, which was what makes it real.
Yeah.
And obviously that kind of the shot of them, kind of the thunder cracks, they look up, there's the Rex. Like it's wonderful. Like,
and it's holding on to the sign.
Yeah. That is from the book, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Because someone was saying the other day, and this goes back to saying about that cut with the Jeep. Someone on Reddit was saying this shot's impossible because there's no way the T-Rex's arm could be there and you wouldn't see the rest of it. It's like, yes, that's correct. But what else are you going to do? If you try and show the obvious thing to show hitting the fence would be the tail.
Yeah.
But if you show the tail and you cut to the head, what you've done is you've shown the entire scale of the animal before it steps out. So you rob yourself of that majestic sight. Yeah. So Spielberg kind of balances up, but what's going to make you feel the most, and even the movement of the arm probably isn't really that great, but it's slithering and a bit weird. I'm sure there's someone saying to him, well, actually, Stephen wouldn't actually do that. You're like, yeah, but this will look good. Which,
and plus it does the tension thing of, oh shit, it's holding on to the fence.
Yeah.
Before you see it break down. So it's the thing of us knowing something before we see it happen, showing that somebody's got a bomb, all the time.
I get it's very simple. It's not complicated, but sometimes there's no one yelling exposition out. No. Like you arriving at the idea that they are in trouble the same time they are.
Yeah.
And it's a really, and again, there's the physical sound of the fence cables under tension, snap.
Yeah.
Everything is just kind of going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. And almost when the T-Rex breaks out, there's almost a sense of release, like, oh, it's here. And obviously that was the point at which I said, we have to leave the cinema now, please take me home.
Yeah.
And again, these kind of really, when you saw the explorers prior to the storm, they're kind of bright and sunny and nice on the inside. When the Rex steps out for the first time, they're off, the lights are off, they are dark, the colours are gone. Whatever safety is afforded to you by feeling like you're in a man-made sterile environment has been robbed by nature, because the sun is gone and these little vehicles, they have no power. Like you're suddenly aware of like, it's just a plastic cage.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. And it's lovely. And it's, again, sort of slightly, you didn't really get that from the Lost World because they leaned into this kind of quasi-militarized equipment, and it still broke down in the same way, but it was, you lose that sense of kind of being naked, I guess. Because you're like, oh, I have no defenses here whatsoever.
Yeah.
And yes, realistically, they probably would have traveled with wardens with shotguns in a working park or something. So the idea that you are frail against these things you created is, again, lovely. Simple, but really brilliantly communicated.
And that's what I really like, the idea of in Rebirth with the taking the Michael Crichton moment of the river raft sequence.
I read, the first day I read that script, and I just, I saw the word like, I can't say what. I saw the word raft shed, and I was like, raft shed? And I kind of started reading it, like I could not believe we were doing that, because as a kid who absorbed all the making of materials, I would play out the sequences with my toys, and like the concept art, I think it's Crash from Curry did it. A great thing of the Rex and that swirling river. I mean, obviously that's so evocative for kids. So I just dreamed of seeing that scene, and then to realize I was going to be working on it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that shot on location, which they didn't send me to Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
So the first I really saw of it in any meaningful way was the second trailer.
Wow.
And having seen how good that looks. And that's the magic Gareth brings to things, right? Like because in the novel it says Grant notes unhappily it's the biggest crocodile in the world. It swims like a crocodile, the biggest crocodile in the world. And just a few seconds they put in the trailer of really the water breaking over.
And again, the speed of it's that thing that you were just talking about with the T-Rex, and it's not in any hurry.
You're in his turf.
Yeah,
like he has all the advantages, and there's that kind of almost a bemused look on its face. It wades into the water slowly. That's the threat, isn't it? Like it's not. There's no jump cut or tumbling chaos. No. It's like you get to experience the full like messed up.
Yeah,
this is how I end by doing something stupid, and it's wonderful. Really. And even though I think it's pretty clear now from the trailers, it's a different look to Jurassic's prior. I think it still really nails that kind of like, here is the artificial, here is the natural, and it's not going to save you. It harkens back to that kind of feel. And I think what we really wanted was to see the kind of abandoned ruins. And it's a shame in the way Fallen Kingdom is only on Nublar for sort of 30 seconds, because even though I personally wasn't enthralled with what world was showing in the first world, but even though I've said it was the right thing to show, see it in ruins and taken back by animals, I do want to see that.
Yeah.
And the start with the T-Rex in the dark and the storm, just stalking around, it's great. Like that's such a, I mean, probably one of the, I think outside of the first movie, the two best scenes in the I hate the word franchise, but in the franchise, the focus pull in Jurassic 3 when you're tracking Billy going down the river and you go past the Pteranodon head, but you don't realize it till it pulls focus, it turns around. That's masterful. That's one of the best shots in all of the movies. And then the other one would be the T-Rex just in the bushes due to lightning, because that's what we want. That's what we want to see. We know the animal's there and we just want to see it breathe and live and
I just love that one. And the Giacchino's music, it replicates his footsteps as it's coming towards, and we know what's happening. It just feels pure Jurassic, that whole sequence.
I would say the scene in Jurassic World where Claire lights the flare and the first thing you see in the Rex's eyes, that was lovely as well. And I think it's really nice when they really lean into the animals being real. And I think it's kind of like, I think my view on these movies has matured a bit since I've had a dog, because all these animal behaviors suddenly make much sense. You've got a dog. But we have a couple of cameras in the house, check where he is. And sometimes you turn the camera on if the lights are off, and all you just get is a pair of glowing eyes at the end of the bed. And I was like, that's proper horror. And to see the Rex do that as well, it's like, it's great because it gives these animals reality and a bit of life. Yeah, in the way that the Dilophosaur in the first movie was kind of a bit playful and kind of, again, toying with its food. There's kind of like it doesn't just jump out and go blah. Like it builds, like he's scoping you out. Yeah. And you are failing. Yeah. And it's assessed that you don't really have the wherewithal to take it on. So it's going to eat you. And I love that kind of interaction where the human assumption of confidence starts to sort of fall apart a little bit. And you kind of like, we aren't the masters of this domain. Yeah. And it's great that the kind of like, Dennis meets his end because his glass is steamed up, because no one, and as a fairly hefty guy myself who wears glasses, steaming up glasses in cars is like the bane of my life. So it's just like one of those things you didn't think through. Like he didn't have control over the weather. So the weather's what did him in, essentially, in the end. Yeah. And it's just this kind of cascading. And obviously the novel discusses this, but also literally illustrates it with the iterations on the chapter pages. But that's that kind of cascading failure. Yeah. And cascading chaos is kind of a recurring theme visually in the first movie. So if you think about it, you have, when you land, you have the waterfall, you have the Cray computers with the kind of cascading data. When the fences start to fail, the visual representation, that is kind of like a cascading series of like, so there's kind of this constant sense of being, there's a kinetic danger. So you're buried by things going wrong. The Barbasol can, there's a lot of this kind of like weight of things coming down on you, and to some degree the great POV shot of the Rex coming down at them on the Jeep as well when they're escaping it. So there's kind of this constant kind of sense of you are small, everything is really big. And again, very simple. It's not, you can't write a book on it, but how you convey that visually is really great.
Well, brilliant. We'll have to reconvene later in the year and we can discuss Rebirth spoilery detail.
How many hours do you have for that?
I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me today. I was wondering where people can find you online, if indeed you want them to.
I'd say don't find me. I think I'm really just on Instagram now. So
Yeah.
I think my username there is Clarksworth. I do post quite a bit behind the scenes stuff. I'll definitely do some making of bits for Jurassic and kind of the bits you do see and don't see. There are endless, because I'm a tremendous nerd, there are endless Easter eggs in there, which probably won't ever make it onto the final cut. So I'll probably try and show them on the Instagram at some point.
Definitely. Well, we can chat about that next time. But yeah, I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me today.
No worries. Always very happy to discuss that first movie. Always.
My huge thanks to Matthew for that conversation. I honestly don't think I've ever talked that in depth about the design of a film as I have done in this episode. There were so many light bulb moments, and I really hope it made you want to go and watch Jurassic Park for possibly the 1,000th time, just to try and look at all those little details and really think about what the art department was doing when they were creating that film back in the 90s with a scaled down budget, and how you do world building. Just in general, really thinking about the design elements that you're looking at. And having now seen Rebirth 3 times, Matthew's work on that film is fantastic. I absolutely love the little details that are put in the film, and I really want to get him back on later in the year once it's out on video, how old am I? Once it's out on home release, and we can both really go into the film in great detail, and we can just talk about the elements that he worked on. I hope that we can do that later on in the year. Now, as to what's coming up next on this podcast, I've sort of got one final episode to bring you, and that is my spoiler thoughts. And I'm bringing back Derek Davis and James Mottram. So it's going to be the three of us sat down chatting about all of our spoiler thoughts on this, the 7th entry in the Jurassic saga. Now, that probably won't be out next Wednesday. It might be out later on in the week, hopefully for Friday, ready for your weekend. And then what happens after that episode, I'm not quite sure. This podcast was meant to be 12 episodes talking about the anticipation leading up to Rebirth's release. But the thing is, I've sort of been having a little bit too much fun, and I don't want to stop it now. What it becomes, I'm not sure, but all I will say is watch this space. Head over to Road to Rebirth on Instagram at Road to Rebirth Pod. Email me your thoughts about Rebirth, about what this podcast could become. I'm really interested to hear everybody's thoughts on those matters. You can do that at roadtorebirthpod@gmail.com. But until next time, I'll just say thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.